Hi, my name's Brad Young, and welcome to the Peak Performance Podcast. Today, we're going to be looking at the champion's mindset. This is episode 8 in the series. Every episode is going to come with some practical application. So there's always going to be some kind of practical application with anything that we do in the Peak Performance Podcast. So as we look at what we have today, we have the champion's mindset. And we're trying to figure out how to unlock it. So the name of the podcast is The Champion's Mindset, Unlocking It. And so, are you ready to unlock the mindset of a champion? This episode is going to dive deep into the principles that set champions apart, the strategies that drive them to peak performance. Together we'll look at the secrets behind their success and have actionable steps you can take. You can use this to adapt the winning mindset and stay strong when challenges try to pull you off course. It's time to recognize your potential and step boldly into the greatness. And it's true. It's all about a mindset. Whether you think you can do something or you think you can't, you're gonna be right most times. Especially when you think you can, you get that 100% of the time. So we gotta step back and look at all these things. And so, first thing we're gonna do is look at the champion's mindset. What is a champion's mindset? The champion's mindset is all about resilience, focus, and relentless drive to grow. Every great person that I know, they have these things. They're resilient, they have focus, and they have a relentless drive to grow. Because drive starts and motivation ends, and so motivation gets you moving, but you have to have drive to continue to grow. It's a mindset that fuels you to push through challenges, break past limits, and aim for nothing less than excellence. Champions don't see obstacles as roadblocks, they see them as opportunities. That's one of my favorite sayings too. Is the obstacle becomes the way. It does. The obstacles in life become your way. They're opportunities. They're opportunities to improve. I've got some recent opportunity, I'm going to utilize to improve and get better. That's just all it is to it. You have to look at them as opportunities to learn, adapt, and get stronger. This is your moment. You got to embrace the mindset and turn every setback into a stepping stone towards greatness. And so, every time I hear stepping stone, I think about a guy when I was really young, a guy named Nathan. He saw something in me that I didn't see. It's funny that he's a little bit older, but he could see things. And he told me, he said, well, Brad, he said, you got to realize that everything is a stepping stone. He said, you got to look at everything as a stepping stone, an opportunity to get better and grow. Nothing's permanent. And I still remember that to this day. He and I'm sure that he probably will never listen to the Peak Performance Podcast. He'll never know, but I got to tell him at some point because I still utilize that analogy because, everything is a stepping stone. So we start looking at the champion's mindset. We got to look at the connection between mindset and achievement. So studies show the significant impact of mental strength on success. According to research published in Frontiers in Psychology, individuals with higher mental toughness scores are 83% more likely to achieve their goals compared to those with lower levels of resilience. Additionally, a survey of elite athletes revealed that 87% of them credit their mental mindset as the primary driver of their success. Mindset is not limited to sports. It's equally vital for personal and professional achievements to access all areas of life. When we think about that, it's true. There is a connection between mindset and achievement. People that do great things, and even if it's great things just for them, it's great. They move beyond what their capabilities are because too many people settle for average or less in life, and they hit it right on the head every time. So when we start looking at the core rules of the champion's mindset, that's where it gets interesting because these are things that we know. And in the podcast description, there's going to be a link to where you can take a survey to evaluate yourself against the core rules of the champion's mindset, and then also going to be some practical application where you can fill it out. Everything I do, I try to have some kind of practical application tool that comes with each podcast. So when we look at this clear vision and purpose, it sounds simple, but there's a lot to it. Clear vision and purpose, because like I told somebody the other day, they asked why this actor was still working despite selling their other company for, $1 billion plus. Because they have a purpose. They have a clear vision and a purpose. That doesn't stop. Your purpose doesn't stop. No matter how much money, no matter what you get. I mean, if you have purpose, it doesn't stop. You still want to fulfill that purpose and that void and that need. See, that's what people don't get. With that clear vision and purpose, you can do anything that you want. And so, as far as peak performance, I mean, these are going to be foundational things. you know, and so when you look at this, you got to set meaningful goals that align with your values, because too many people set goals that don't align with their values. And I mean, I guess you can look at an example. An aspiring writer with a passion for storytelling might set a goal to publish a novel that reflects their personal experiences and values. And, I wrote a few books myself on, my personal experiences, and I've got another one that's going to be really not PG-13, but I like storytelling. But by aligning their goals with their love for creativity and authenticity, they stay motivated and overcome challenges, ultimately achieving success in their writing career because they have a passion. See, when you have a passion that aligns with your values and you care about something, you're going to keep working at it. You're not going to stop. I mean, I work contracts and do other things, but at the end of the day, I mean, I make podcasts, I write books. I'm trying to get where I can speak more and earn more money doing things like that. I mean, I do well on the podcasting side of it. I've got to work on the other side, because I mean, I had 52 best-selling books in 1 year, and I've got to capitalize on this. So you've got to take your passion. I mean, I wouldn't write 52 books if I didn't care about what I'm doing. And we all have to take this. We all have to use this. And I mean, make sure what you're doing is aligns with your values, because just making money or just getting money for this or that's not with your values. Your value isn't money. It's what you can buy with. It's the freedom you can buy with money. It's other things like that. And people, you got to understand these things. People don't, though. So remember, clear vision and purpose, and set meaningful goals. And another thing you can do, is use visualization techniques to stay focused, because you've got to stay clear, purpose filled. You create a vision board or a list or whatever that represents your goals. I mean, whatever you can use to see it. And I've got to go back and redo this later today, because I'm really been hammering trying to get these all out, because I specifically make each episode to have the most impact possible. So it takes a while. It takes a while to get everything out and get everything right like I need. But get that vision board, with the images, words that represent your goals. Practice daily guided meditation. I mean, that really helps. I mean, I try to spend time meditating pretty much on a daily basis. I'll get into the sauna. I have a sauna in my home, and I get into my steam room. I get into my steam room, and I'll meditate, and I'll think, and I'll look and think about what I can accomplish going forward, what I can do, what I want out of life, because nobody can tell you what you want out of life. You got to understand and figure it out for yourself. And so, when we start doing these things, we dedicate a few minutes every day to mentally rehearse the steps to achieve them. Visualizing all these things, it just makes all the difference in the world. I mean, studies show the individual with a clear sense of purpose are more likely to persevere through challenges and long-term success, achieve long-term success. Having a defined purpose enhances focus, resilience, and overall motivation. So I got to write this down today, because it's what I love to do. I like to talk. I like to tell stories. It's things that I enjoy and I'm good at. You got to find what you enjoy, what you're good at, what you love, and where your heart is. If you do things all the time where your heart's not in them, I mean, it never works out. But research indicates that people who have a clear sense of purpose are 42% more likely to achieve their goals compared to the ones that don't. It highlights the importance of having a defined purpose, because it fosters commitment and drives consistency. So we got rule 2 now. Discipline over motivation. Why discipline fuels consistency? I mean, discipline is the foundation of consistency, because it enables you to take action regardless of fluctuating emotions or external circumstances. That's discipline, because you can't control what's outside you, but you can control your emotions. You got to be able to control them and be disciplined and try to, block out the external circumstances. By adhering to routines and habits, discipline creates a steady rhythm of progress. You stay in your rhythm. When I get out of rhythm, I have problems sometimes. And, I have to realize that, and we all have to figure out how we're going to get to that peak performance, how we're going to have that perfect day, how we're going to have that perfect week, month, year. So, because you got to realize that, you can't rely on fleeting motivation. You got to have those routines set because motivation is going to come and go. That's where the drive comes in. Motivation fuels drive, but consistency is what's going to push that drive. That drive that'll get you through. Because when consistency activates drive, because motivation ends for everyone at some point, the drive kicks in. It's just kind of like pushing a car. You used to jump start cars, 5-speed cars, stick shifts. You have to push them down a hill and get them moving. And you can hit the clutch and do that. It's the same thing. I don't even think they even make 5 speeds anymore, but or 6-speed cars. But that's what fuels your consistency. And we also have to look at when we look at discipline over motivation, we got to look at strategies to build habits even when your motivation goes away. We start with small and focus on one habit at a time, one thing at a time. Have clear, achievable goals. And that's what I try to write down every day is some kind of clear, achievable goals that I can accomplish. Something you can knock out that's going to get it, just like in Admiral McCraven's Make Your Bed. Make your bed. That's one goal you get out of the way. But we've got to create reminders and cues that trigger habits. We got to reward our progress to stay motivated and moving, and last but not least, for rule 2, we have to, look at techniques to overcome procrastination and stay committed. When we do this, when we break these tasks down into manageable steps, it makes it easier. You can use the 2-minute rule to start task immediately, or even the 5-second rule. That's what I like to do. If I don't want to do something, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, boom. That's by Mel Robbins, and it works. It's a famous technique she uses, and I use it the same. We can all use it. But, as you fill out the sheet and you go through everything, this will help, help get the juices flowing on ways to do this. Eliminate distractions from your workplace. This is a big one right here because, I've worked from home since 2009. And so that's quite it's quite a few years. We're looking at 16 years that I've been working remotely. And so I eliminated those distractions in year 1. Actually, I take that back. Back in 2005, 2004, I'd had a short stint working remotely, and I did manage it well. And I learned from that because of the distractions and all the other things going on. And so I'd failed on that one. And so when I come back and got a chance in 2009, I've been doing it ever since. But you eliminate those distractions. You have everything in front of you. You have everything ready. You follow a schedule. You do all those things. You set specific deadlines for each task and you accomplish them. I write them on my calendar and I get them done. When something's on my calendar, it says it's done, it's getting done. Practice time blocking to organize your schedule effectively. Time blocking is something that I utilize significantly, a lot, because, when you block out that time, you get everything done in that block. You block it out, you do it, you don't have to worry about it. Rule 3. And so as a champion's mindset continues confidence through preparation. And this is what all the greats do, all the champions do, because when you're prepared, the fear of failure goes away. If you're confident, you know what you're doing, there is no fear of failure because you're already confident, you know what you're doing. And that's something I ran into the other day, it's a presentation stuff. Somebody asked me why I didn't have notes. I understand it. I've got confidence. I know what I'm doing. And that's what we all have to do is you got to prepare enough and have a strong enough, skills that you understand, what it is you're able to get through all these things. Studies show that individuals that feel well prepared are significantly less likely to experience anxiety when they're facing challenges or tasks, which is true. If you feel like you're prepared, you know what you're doing, the anxiety just doesn't happen near as much. But if you don't, it's kind of like me. All right, I can talk about something that I know for hours. I can go through, make speeches, go through things, and just continue on and on. But if I don't know something, I mean, I don't feel confident on it, don't work for me that way. I have to know it well. And that produces confidence. I'm able to do it because we might be able to BS our way through a few things, but that's not what we need to do because, see, we're looking at peak performance. So if you're completely prepared, those obstacles don't matter. I mean, Michael Jordan, you think about him. I mean, he's more prepared than anybody. I mean, in basketball, I mean, it's unbelievable the training schedule he had, how much harder he worked than everybody else through the off season. I mean, he would start right after winning a championship, and he'd start back trying to get better for next season. I mean, unbelievable. But that's the champion's mindset, though. That's what you have to have. You got to continue to get better and better, and that's what I have to work on as well. Just like anybody that tunes into the Peak Performance podcast, because that's what we have to do. But studies show that approximately 90% of top performers attribute their success through preparation. So not only do we have 87 with mindset, we have 90% of people through preparation. So, now we're starting to get it. Mindset and preparation are your keys. These are keys that are going to make all the difference. And so again, when you're going through the document that's going to be in the podcast description, go through it, look at it, compare yourself, because this is how we get better. We compare ourselves, we get confident, just like me doing podcasts. I mean, I can go through a whole bunch I make a lot of podcasts in a day if I have everything set up and I have it right and I have the confidence, things that I know, and I know I can go through them really smoothly and they go well. I'm not having to continually, restart them, etc. We're going to keep moving. Resilience is the key. So overcoming setbacks from failure. This is where Michael Jordan comes in again, because he was cut from his high school basketball team. He used the setback as motivation to become, in my opinion, the greatest basketball player in history. I mean, I've never seen anybody take over a game like Michael Jordan. The only other person I've watched that could take over a game like that would be Kobe Bryant. But Michael Jordan, I mean, would just take over a game. He didn't have great players around him, but he took over the game, and he missed thousands and thousands of game-winning shots. But people only remember the ones that he hit, but he kept taking the shots. And so that's resilience. You got to keep taking the shots, and that's where, I have to continue to take shots. I've got to continue to keep moving instead of, slowing down for any reason. I have to continue to take those shots. You do too. Serena Williams, I mean, she had ridiculous amounts of injuries and setbacks, but she can consistently return to dominate tennis. Lionel Messi, the great soccer player, he had a growth hormone deficiency as a child, but went on to become one of the greatest soccer players of all time. Tom Brady, the GOAT, he was a 6th round pick, endowed early in his career, but he became one of the most accomplished quarterbacks in NFL history. That was through resilience, mental toughness, strength. I mean, to become the GOAT like that, I mean, he is just unbelievable. He is an unbelievable example of hard work, resilience, and continuing to believe in himself when others didn't. 6th round pick. Unbelievable. But, as we look at resilience, I mean, we just have to learn from our setbacks and see them as opportunities as growth. And that's what we have to do. We all have to do it. We have to sit back and look at it as opportunities to grow and get better. Every time we fail, every time you don't make something, it's an opportunity to learn and grow, And rule 5, the last one here, it's going to be surround yourself with excellence. You gotta have people around you that want to see you win. Too many people get around people that don't want to see them win, or they don't want to see them win more than they've won. And so that's a problem. That's a problem. Every time I get around somebody, they tell me they're competitive. I know that they don't want to see me win. I know they're going to do something to try to undermine whatever I'm trying to do, whether it's in front or most of the time it's passive aggressive things. And so every time I hear that, I know what's happening. So, but we got to, look at it, you got to surround yourself with the right people. And if you don't have the right people, you got to go find them. You got to look at these things. You got to understand that research shows that employees with strong mentorships are more likely to achieve their professional goals which results in a higher level of job performance and productivity. You got to have a mentor. You got to have somebody, and you get in, especially when you're new to an industry or new to anything. I mean, you got to have a mentor. You need to have that. If you're, even having a coach, if you're training for a marathon, you're training for a bodybuilder, whatever you're doing to be at your peak performance, you need a mentor. You need somebody. From a financial perspective, companies that foster mentorship programs often report reduced turnover rates, saving a significant amount of cost associated with recruiting and training. And that's true. If you have good relationships with your coworkers and you have a mentorship program, you're going to reduce those turnover rates because people want to stay. There's a reason to stay versus being a quote unquote job. Professionals who participate in mentorship relationships tend to experience faster career advancement because they're learning from somebody more experienced. They have higher earning potential over time. They gain skills and insight to the workplace. And last but not least, learning from the successes and habits of those you admire. Find somebody that in business, sports, or anything that is a peak performer and look at their successes and habits, and you'll be able to see how you can apply them. Because that's how you learn, is learning from them. And then if you want to surpass them, you can. You just have to, you need to look at them first and figure it out. But like I said, the champion's mindset, unlocking it, the core rules, etc., are on the link in the podcast description. It's going to be some information that you can fill out to learn more about yourself and how you compare yourself and how we can continue to get better together. But thank you for listening. My name's Brad Young, and I want you guys to have a great day. Thanks.